Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into one of the absolute highest stakes milestones in any romantic relationship, and that's moving in together. Now, whether you're currently staring down a daunting stack of cardboard boxes, or maybe you made the leap years ago, deciding to share a single address, and let's be real, a single bathroom, is a massive transition. It fundamentally shifts your entire dynamic. It's a huge step, right? But I want you to stop and really ask yourself, or maybe ask your past self, why are you actually moving in together? Is it for love? Is it because rent is just ridiculously high right now? Or is it to see if you can actually stand living with this person before making a much bigger commitment? If you're currently contemplating packing up your whole life to merge it with someone else's, you're definitely not alone. Back in the early 1950s, less than 1% of couples lived together before marriage. Think about that. Less than 1%. But today, a massive 76% of people report cohabiting with a romantic partner before tying the knot. It's the modern norm. But despite how incredibly common it is, the specific reasons behind your move can drastically alter what happens after you unpack. Okay, let's dive right into this. We're going to unpack a fascinating 5-year study covering the cohabitation boom, intrinsic versus external motives, what happens when you move in for intimacy, the dangerous test trap, the convenience factor, and finally, why you absolutely need to talk before you pack. Section 1, the cohabitation boom, the societal shift. Let's look at the rigorous science behind this massive shift, because the sheer scale of the data here is incredible. We aren't just looking at, subjective dating advice or random anecdotal stories here. This is hard, peer-reviewed science from the University of Denver. Researchers conducted a 5-year longitudinal study following 485 unmarried adults in opposite-sex relationships, and they collected an impressive 11 waves of survey data, starting right around the time these couples moved in together. So they were rigorously tracking their relationship status and how well they functioned together for years. Section 2. Intrinsic versus external motives, categorizing motives. So to make sense of all this data, the researchers essentially sorted the main reasons people sign a lease together into distinct psychological buckets. First up, we have intrinsic motives. This is when you're driven by a deep desire to build the relationship from the inside out. You're moving in because of positive characteristics about the partnership itself, like you genuinely want to increase your emotional intimacy, you want to share your daily life, and simply spend more time with your partner. It's an entirely relationship-driven decision. On the flip side, we have external motives. These are circumstantial, event-driven factors completely outside the relationship that kind of force or prompt the move. We're talking about things like a looming lease expiration, the sudden inconvenience of living far apart, or the heavy financial convenience of splitting a frankly terrifying monthly rent in a tough economy. Section 3, Path 1. Moving in for intimacy, moving in for connection. Let's move to how these motives build into real-world outcomes once that honeymoon phase of picking out apartment decor fades. When the data rolled in, it painted a very clear, really positive picture for couples who are motivated by intimacy. If your primary reason for moving in is that intrinsic desire to spend more time together, the study shows it predicts much better overall relationship functioning down the line. We're talking about significantly higher relationship satisfaction, notably lower negative communication and conflict, and just much higher dedication to the partnership. You're literally moving in to nurture a bond that is already rock solid. Section 4, Path 2. The test trap, testing the relationship. Now let's shift gears for a second and look at a highly contrasted and honestly incredibly common second path. So many people think living together is a smart, low-stakes trial run, just to see if a relationship has what it takes for the long haul. But the crucial point is, the researchers found that greater endorsement of testing the relationship actually predicts worse functioning across the board. While moving in for intimacy leads to high dedication, moving in to test the relationship leads to lower relationship satisfaction, higher levels of negative communication, and a significantly higher likelihood of breaking up entirely. And this leads directly into a fascinating, kind of scary psychological phenomenon known as the inertia trap. It all comes down to a crucial concept called sliding versus deciding. When you move in just to test things out, you're suddenly sharing a lease, maybe you buy a ridiculously heavy couch together, you combine your daily routines, you create structural constraints. It becomes financially and logistically so much harder to break up. So instead of making a clear, confident decision about the relationship's future, couples just slide into staying together in a low-quality situation, literally feeling trapped, because hitting the exit is simply too difficult. And this brilliantly illustrates the absolute aha moment of the entire study. If you look closely at these trajectory lines showing relationship satisfaction, negative communication, and dedication over time, the solid blue lines represent those with high endorsement of a specific motive, and the dashed red lines represent low endorsement. Look at how those lines behave over the years. Whether you move in for intimacy or to test the relationship, the trajectory, the actual slope of how your relationship functions over time, runs almost perfectly parallel. Okay, let me just read you this direct quote from the researchers to explain what those parallel lines actually mean, because it is a massive revelation. They wrote, reasons for cohabitation appear to reflect pre-existing relationship quality, instead of impacting its post-cohabitation trajectories. What does that mean? It means your reasons for moving in don't magically change the angle of your relationship's trajectory. They just expose the baseline quality that was already there. If you're moving in to test the relationship, it means you already had underlying doubts. You were already starting at a lower baseline of satisfaction, and moving in just simply doesn't fix it. Section 5. The convenience factor. Moving in to save rent. Let's briefly address the third most common reason couples merge their lives. You might be sitting there wondering, well, what if we just moved in because rent is ridiculous right now? Interestingly, the study found that convenience is surprisingly a neutral predictor. On its own, moving in for convenience didn't actually predict long-term success or failure. It really all comes down to the presence of those intrinsic motives and the underlying baseline quality of your relationship, rather than just the fact that you wanted to save a few $100s a month. Section 6. Talk before you pack. Actionable advice. So, what does this all mean? What should you take away from all this data if you're currently contemplating this major step? Well, the researchers are incredibly clear here. You need to have deliberate, open conversations before you pack a single box. Step 1, reflect honestly on your own true motives by yourself first. Step 2, sit down and discuss those intrinsic versus external reasons together with your partner. Are you both truly driven by intimacy, or is one of you just eyeing an expiring lease? And step 3, identify and address any pre-existing doubts right now. Do not use a shared apartment as a tool to test or fix those doubts, because as the data clearly shows, it just won't work. Which leaves us with this final kind of provocative thought for you to consider about the true state of your own relationship. Are you consciously, confidently deciding to move in together to build upon an already strong foundation, or are you just sliding into it? Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer. Keep asking the right questions, and we'll see you next time.